Hey everyone, welcome to Black Travel and Culture. I am your girl Kim, aka Kim with the Gems, and today we are awaiting the arrival of our guest speaker. But before she gets here, let me just go ahead and take ownership for the anyone who tried to join on Saturday. Totally my error. When I sent the invitation out, I was sending it in Central Standard Time, even though I'm working now on Eastern Standard Time. I have been traveling and had some important meetings, so I changed my calendar to Central Standard so I wouldn't get confused. And then when I came back, I just never switched it back over. So I'm taking full ownership of the mix up. And I'm just glad that we were able to reschedule for today. I know it's an odd time of the day, so many of you will probably be coming in and watching the replay. However, I want to introduce the channel. Black Travel and Culture is a lifestyle channel, and I'm gonna steal this phrase from our guest speaker who's coming on Friday, Kim Singleton. It's like well, someone reviewed her book and said her book was like a hug to the culture, and this channel is really a hug to the culture. We focus on wellness, travel, and finance, with the common denominator being culture. And all of our information is geared to educate and inform things that we may not have learned as children, things that we may be confused about now as adults. This channel and all of the content and information within it is going to hopefully help somebody. I know it will help at least one person. And so, what sparked the idea for this conversation, the power of the pivot, was me just, perusing YouTube and seeing some really dynamic sisters who talk about women in business and helping educate a lot of women getting started in business. And one of the underlying concerns was fear and starting over and being caught in a rut. And so, Launch to Wealth is one channel that I recommend to anyone who's looking to diversify incomes, find seed money for their business, how to start a business, how to, um, fill out certain forms. Gwen, who's our guest, we're going to talk more about what she provides in that area. And Journey with the Hintons talks about amplifying your streams of income. And so I wanted to bring a experienced, successful CEO who looks like us, has gone through some of the hardships that we face when we're out in the world, corporate America, trying to make impacts. And not only was she successful within her company, she's finding the strength to pivot. Oh, there she is.
Hey there.
I
I can
didn't
see
even
you
see
the
you
whole
the
time.
link. But you weren't showing up on my end. I don't know why. You literally just popped up.
That's
I was
so
just saying, the
crazy.
powers that be, they don't want us to have the information. They do not.
They don't want us to win,
Nope,
but
not at all.
we're not gonna have it. We're not gonna have it.
No, we're just listen. This is about the pivot, the power of the pivot. So we're gonna
Absolutely.
just go ahead and press on. So I've already formally apologized for the mix up on Saturday. I literally was on Central Standard Time in Mexico. I was in Guadalajara and I had I had to meet with immigration. So I changed
Mm,
my calendar to match theirs so
yeah,
I wouldn't get confused. And I just
yeah,
never switched it back. So
no
my
problem.
apologies. I'm glad you were able to, get me back on your schedule
Yeah,
really quick. And I'm excited for this conversation. I just really think that the universe brought us together based on our missions,
yeah,
to really educate and inform our community on things that, we are not necessarily privy to the same way our counterparts are. So
Sure.
without, wasting anyone else's time, let me just shout out Date with the Plate, who's here. Let me read what you said. Hold on a second. Hi, Date with the Plate. I am starting a business and just wanted to hear a story from someone successful, tips, advice, etc. You're in the right place, girl. You are in the right place. Okay, so let's just get started. I already introduced my channel. I already talked a little bit about the mission of the channel, and we're just going to get into the introduction of Gwen. So we're going to start off by just sharing what this conversation was themed around. We'll get into Gwen's bio, and then I'm going to do less talking and asking questions and let you guys get the successful tips and advice from this CEO who turned $32 into over a $20 million company. And that in of itself is just miraculous. So this channel, like I said, is all about educating and informing us in the areas of wellness, travel, and finance. And under the finance umbrella also includes entrepreneurship, anything that can help one, small, make the what do you call it, the wealth gap smaller, as well as realize that we don't always have to report to somebody. We can, live in our passion and create. We are creators by nature, and we tend to get stifled in the mundane, everyday necessities of working for other people. So I just want to, like I said, first talk about what this conversation is going to be about: how to reduce burnout and level up your success by embracing change. It's all about the pivot. We cannot be fearful of making change. And not only is there power in that, there's also a level of peace in that. And trust me, ask me how I know, because I had to do it too after spending almost 20 years at one company, right? And so, but on the other side of that, there's a level of peace that is just so inexplicable when you're living in your passion. Gwen is going to share her journey through the process and lessons that she has learned along the way. And so we're just going to get into her bio really quick. And when I tell you, I am not only impressed because the company that I left after 20 years is Essence. And so I've seen successful women that look like us, but your story when it comes to the beauty industry is very uncommon. It's very uncommon. There's probably a handful. Well, I won't even say a handful, because where you started with the $32, let me just read the bio. Gwen Jameer is a CEO and serial entrepreneur who started her company with just $32 in the bank and grew it to over $20 million in revenue. Just sit with that for a second. I don't even know if we can really wrap our heads around the gap, between the $32 in the bank and growing it to over $20 million in revenue. She is also the first African-American woman to patent a natural hair care product and a recognized figure in the entrepreneurial circles. Gwen's story has captivated audiences on platforms like Forbes, The Today Show, Good Morning America, Business Insider, CNBC, and more. Gwen's journey from a struggling single mother to a celebrated CEO is a testament to her resilience, innovation, and unwavering determination. And I'm just going to throw in there some praying grandmothers or some praying
Absolutely.
ancestors, as a host of the Get Money Show on YouTube. And we'll make sure to include all her information in the description when this is done. As the host of the Get Money Show on YouTube, she not only tells her personal story, but also delves into the challenges and triumphs of creating a groundbreaking company and building a successful business from the ground up. And listen, y'all, I saw you did a video recently about how to get a loan as a small business owner. So many of us have been doing it so wrong for so long. So definitely check out her show, the Get Money Show. It's not on you. Is it on YouTube yet? Because I think I saw you on Facebook.
Yeah, it's going to be on YouTube. So it's on So I just started the channel, and we'll get all
Okay.
into that. But yes,
Okay.
all the episodes will be on YouTube.
Okay. All right. Perfect. And so welcome, Gwen. Welcome to this conversation. And we'll just get into the questions. I hope I did right by you with the bio and the intro.
Thank you. You did amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And anyone who's here now, go ahead and be sure to follow both of us, both the real Gwen Jameer on YouTube, correct?
No, it's just Gwen Jameer.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay, Gwen Jameer
Yeah,
on
just
YouTube.
Gwen Jameer. Yeah.
It popped up. I thought it said the real, but okay. Gwen Jameer on YouTube, and also follow Black Travel and Culture on YouTube as well. So we're just going to get into the first question, and that's really just tell us who you are, Gwen, in a concise way, but tell us who you are. Share a little bit more about yourself, something maybe that I didn't cover through the intro and the bio.
Sure. So, like you said in the bio, which was great, thank you so much. I am a serial entrepreneur. I've always known that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know how I was going to be an entrepreneur. When I was younger, I was in college, and I took a lot of film classes. And so I was deciding I was going to be a videographer, and I thought that's what I was going to do. So I was filming weddings and stuff, and I started this whole company doing that. And I just felt like that was kind of small for what I wanted to be. And it just wasn't big enough for me at the time. And so I decided to stop doing that. And then I had this bright idea that I was going to open up this nightclub, and it was going to be all women staff, female DJ, female wait staff, female owner. Obviously, I'd be the owner. And in my infinite wisdom, I was like 21 years old, and I was going to buy this like $1 million building in downtown Cleveland, which is originally where I'm from. I don't know where I'm going to get the money for this, but it didn't matter to me. It was like, it's going to happen. And so obviously that didn't happen. And I ended up going back to grad school, got my master's, and I got recruited by Ford Motor Company. And I worked in marketing at Ford, and I'm very familiar with Essence because Ford used to do a lot with Essence. And I worked in marketing, and I did that. And I always felt like working for someone else it sucked my spirit. It just and I'm a very my mom always used to call me her butterfly child because she's like, you just all over the place, And I just remember being at work, and it was just like I was tethered to the job. It's like I had all the perks that sound good when you're working for someone else. I had a company car, I had a company cell phone, I had company travel, but people don't realize that company travel is not fun. You go to fun places, but you're working the whole time. And so once I had my son, I realized very quickly that the amount of time that they required from me was not going to allow me to be the present mother that I wanted to be. And so I started working on hair care products for myself. I really wasn't even trying to make it a business, to be honest. I was just working on hair care products and trying to figure out my hair because I had always relaxed my hair. And I decided that I was going to start going natural because I didn't want the chemicals from the relaxer to affect my unborn child. And it was really supposed to be just a 9-month thing that has turned into a 13-year thing.
Wow.
I didn't know. But I ended up going through a really bad divorce. I'm fast forwarding here quite a bit. I ended up going through a really bad divorce. I got laid off from Ford because they went through a restructuring. And when they went through the restructuring, they had a new CEO, and they pretty much cleaned house. And I was one of those casualties. Okay. In the midst of my divorce, I was left with $32 in the bank, and I was now a single mother. On top of that, my whole family lives in Ohio. I live in Michigan, so I had no support system here. I also was 14 days from my house being foreclosed. I got a letter from the mortgage company saying, you haven't made a payment in 3 months. We're going to have to foreclose on your house. The light company was threatening to turn off my lights and my gas. Mind you, I live in Michigan. It's cold here, right? And I have a baby. So I got a baby. I am on the verge of having no house and no heat. And I actually ended up finding myself having to get on food stamps. And for me, this was like the rock bottom of all rock bottoms, and it was like, here I was at this 6-figure, high cushy job, and all of a sudden, how did I get here? I have less than $50 in the bank. I'm a single mother. I went through all the emotions of dealing with that. And I was just like, you know what? I can either fold or I can soar. I don't know how I'm gonna soar, but I cannot let like my ex-husband think that I need him. Right. That was really my motivation. I was like, because he told me, he was like, this is a 2-income household. You leave me, you're not gonna be able to survive.
Wow.
And I was like, well, he was abusive. And I was just like, I'm not staying in this abusive marriage solely to have your income.
Right. Food stamps looks better than abuse, period.
Correct. So I left that situation. And that's how Naturalicious got started. So because I was making these products for myself at home, I had to quickly start to make money to feed my son, pay my mortgage, and pay my light bill. And so, and pay my gas bill. That was the catalyst for that, like, kicked me in the butt to like, hey, you need to make this happen. And so when I say I started with $32, a lot of times people are like, well, how is that even possible? But honestly, like, we can, when we want to do something, we will make it happen. And Black women specifically, there's like no stopping us, right? Like, there's all these systemic things that are in our way, like lack of adequate funding, lack of capital, you know, that sort of thing. But if you want to make it happen, you'll make it happen. And so what I did, and I don't want to belabor this, but what I did was there's an open air market here in Detroit called Eastern Market. And I did not even have enough money. The fee to have a table at Eastern Market is like $100. I had 32. So I didn't have enough money to even get a table to sell my products at this like open air, like flea market. So I took my son, who was an infant at the time, put him in his carrier, and I found a table in my basement. Took the table to Eastern Market and just set up shop and hoped that the organizers did not come and kick me out. And I had him. And so he was, you know, he was a baby, and people love babies, right? They really love babies.
Yes.
And so I would almost like use him to like drive traffic to the table. And people would come over and say like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. How old is he? And I'm like, oh, he's like a year, you know, whatever. And I would almost like pimp my son out.
What? Listen, you wasn't selling him. You were selling products, and he was just a byproduct.
Yeah, and he would drive. He was the catalyst that drove people to the table. I would then use that opportunity to tell them about the products, tell them my story, and then sell them on the products. And I would sell out every weekend, and I use that money to pay my bills. And, you know, slowly but surely, you know, we started growing and growing more until we finally got into a local Whole Food store, which then led to multiple Whole Food stores, which ultimately led to more and more stores. And now, you know, all the customers that we have now. So.
Yeah. And we didn't even really specifically talk about the brand yet. Like, we just talked about you taking $32 and creating this multi-million dollar company. But if you're not familiar with Naturalicious, all you got to do is Google it and you will see all of the press, all of the great reviews about the product. And we're not going to talk too much about the product, but can you just give us some insight as to your ideation for the product and what fueled you to go in that direction?
Yeah, I was this was at the beginning of what I would call like the new natural hair wave. So this is like 10, 11 years ago. So this was prior to you being able to go into any store and find a natural hair product. Like, it was a struggle at that time, right? At that point, I think Carol's Daughter was the only really well-known brand. And maybe Shea Moisture was brand new, right? They had like this terrible packaging at the time. And, like, they were brand new. And so I was at the kind of the forefront of that wave. But for me, I started noticing like people were constantly complaining about how long it was taking them to get their hair done. Like, they were like, okay, I'm trying to go natural, but it's taking me hours, like, you know, 4 to 6, sometimes 7 hours just to do my hair. Like, I don't have that kind of time. And as someone who worked in corporate, who had to be like very, very time managed, because I worked for Ford and I was always on planes and I was always doing all these different things. And at some point trying to be a mother as well, I got really good at managing my time. And so I created a product for me that combined multiple steps into one, thereby cutting my wash day down. So my whole like marketing push in the beginning was that we take you from wash to done in 30 minutes or less. And that was huge for people because they were used to spending at minimum 4 hours on their hair.
100%.
Yeah. So that was.
And that's if you don't condition overnight. Like, I would condition overnight and then still spend another 3 hours the
Yeah.
next day. Yeah.
It was crazy. And so I had invented this product for myself again that allowed me to wash, condition, deep condition, detangle, and use as a leave-in conditioner all at one time. And that was the bulk of the time that you were spending. So instead of doing each and every one of those steps individually, I was able to do those steps all at once. And that's the product that I actually got patented. And so that patent led to a ton of press and a ton of people wanting to know about it, because they were like, how is no other hair care product patented? Like, that's crazy. Like, Madam CJ Walker didn't patent anything, and it's
Wow.
like, you have to realize that in order to patent something, it has to truly be a new idea or invention, even if it's not already patented. So the patent office can't be able to just Google something or Google a recipe, for example, and say, oh, well, someone else wrote a blog about this, right? It has to be something that's a novel idea that's brand new. And at that time, this was 2015, that we're in the 21st century at this point. It's very hard to come up with something brand new that has no basis anywhere else in the history of ever, right? And
One
so,
second. Keep talking. I just need to plug in my computer. So keep talking.
okay. And so, so that's how I ended up getting the patent. So I got a ton of press, with, me owning Naturalicious and people just being really intrigued as to, well, who is this girl? What is this Naturalicious product? Like, how did that even come to be? And is she even telling the truth? How can you truly wash your hair and be done in 30 minutes or less? So that's how the company came to be. And that was, again, the whole premise for the brand in the beginning. I'm very big on innovation. I really love creating new things that are different and things that actually have a lot of value for the consumer. There's a lot of sameness in the beauty industry. And I'm sure, having worked at Essence before, that for sure. Like, it's just the same thing with a new label or the
Yeah.
same thing with a different brand name.
And all you got to do is look at the ingredients on the back and you could tell it's the same product, but different packaging. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, innovation is so sexy. I just love innovation and differentiation. And so I just had no desire to create something that was the same, because, like, what's the point? Like, they already exist. And so that's how it came to be.
I mean, you brought up, so my time at Essence, it's so funny because I worked very closely with Uniworld. So very, very closely.
I worked at Uniworld too.
Oh my God. But in the Detroit office.
Yeah, in the Detroit office.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was at the one in Brooklyn. I mean, I used to go there at least once a week.
Oh,
I had other clients there. Yeah. So when you say that, it is absolutely, it's bringing back so many fond memories of Ford. They used to sponsor Black women in Hollywood, Black women in music, all of our big initiatives, Essence Fest, all of the big initiatives. Ford was one of our main partners. So we may have crossed paths in the past.
I can't believe we never met. I can't believe we never met, because I was on all of this. I was at every Essence Music Festival. I was at.
So I didn't have Ford as a client, but yeah. So my other clients would bring me to these events. And when I say bring me, I would have to go to support them. Sure. But Uniworld, so I had like Colgate. There were other clients that I had that Uniworld had as clients. So anyway, so it's just bringing back fond memories. But when you talk about, there's so many, listen, I'm trying to keep this, within 30 to 40 minutes, but you brought up so many great points about, well, let's go all the way back to the beginning when you said you were thinking about buying a $1 million building to start a club. So right there, you're a gifted person with vision. Like, even though that didn't manifest, right? You had most people wouldn't even have that as a brainchild, at the age of 21. Hell, at the age of 51, 41, that is a massive undertaking with a whole lot of pieces that would have to come together. But you not only thought about what it would look like, all women's, run business, you had the place, you knew what, visually what it looked like. So that just shows who we're, talking to in this conversation, guys. So absolutely start really paying attention to the things that you thought about, because even though that vision didn't manifest the way that you thought it would, it kind of did. You turned a business idea into a multi-million-dollar business. Now, it wasn't a club, it wasn't a female DJ, but it still targeted women. It targeted women who had a need. And so that was just a gem. So I like to call these conversations, conversations with gem droppers. And
Sure.
there's certain gems that we may not pick up as it's being said. So I always say play it back again, because there's certain things that will resonate with you individually that can help push you to do to live in your purpose. So that was one thing. You also talked about being able, we know how to get what we want. We know how to do it. Sometimes we just don't execute on it.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you executed, like you were like, you know what, they gonna have to call the cops and get me out of this flea market, but I'm gonna at least give it a try, is something that many of us, unfortunately, it's the fear. We were scared to do. We know there's a possibility we may get in trouble, so we just don't. Instead of what did they say? Ask for forgiveness later. Like
I am an ask for forgiveness person. Like I am such a rebel.
I mean, your story, it just so far we haven't even been talking about 10 minutes. But your story, that in and of itself, like sometimes you have to just, and you know what? These are things that Gary Vee says, right? These are things that people that have made it to the highest heights that don't look like us say. But for some reason, a lot of us get stifled. And one of the other things that I noticed, we don't like to ask for help. We do not like to, even we could have the most, we could have the biggest ideas with the full passion behind it. But if it means picking up and asking somebody to watch my child today, or to ask somebody, can I borrow $100 until after this flea market is over and I'll pay? We get stubborn in that way. And so the fact that, you were able to not only have a vision, a huge vision, that's where I was going with it, that manifested into big results. You also were unapologetic in the way you went about getting it. Like you were like, I was pimping out my son. No, you weren't. You were doing what needed to be done to feed your child. And so so far, there were just so many, and there was others, but I'm gonna just go on because again, we can absolutely talk about all of the gems that you dropped for the next 20 minutes. And I don't want to do that, but I do want to get into some of the challenges that you faced with your business, because what I know for sure, so like you mentioned, Shea Moisture, he's the guy who founded Shea Moisture, is the new owner of Essence. But he used to be a client for years. He wasn't my client, but I saw a lot of what that brand went through before Unilever acquired it. And the same with Carol's daughter. I was a huge Carol's daughter, not hair care products, but her skincare products. Before when she used to sell out of her brownstone in Brooklyn, I would go and, support her business. But once they started to grow, like the growing pains, I know are real. So if you can just share some lessons or words of wisdom as it relates to the challenges that you faced in growing a brand after you received your patent.
Yeah. So there's some years where certain economic things make it easier to have a business, especially a product-based business, than other years. So for example, the COVID years, right? 2020, 2021, that sort of year. I know Kim, I hear people say this all the time, like, oh, I did all this during the pandemic. Everybody was thriving in the pandemic. Like, honestly, like, unless you like had some sort of ailment, like economically, we were doing great, right? Like it was raining money, like, during the pandemic. It's after the pandemic. That's the problem. That's the challenge, right? Especially for product-based businesses, especially for personal care businesses. I can speak to it from personal care, but I have friends who own clothing businesses, food prep businesses, service-based businesses, and they all are having, especially in 2023, has significant challenges. So for me, when I started the company, I started in 2013. So little kind of funny fact is I actually got laid off on March 4th of 2013. And that's the same day that I started my company as a business, because I said,
That's
Well, I
my
gotta
mom's
do something.
birthday. That's why I was like, oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I said I gotta do something. And a friend
Uh-huh.
told me, well, this is kind of serendipitous that you got laid off on March 4th and you started the company on March 4th, because March 4th literally means to go forward. And here you are going forward.
Gosh, that's true.
Isn't that
Wow.
crazy?
Okay. Did y'all pick up that gem right there? Oh my gosh. And
Yep.
someone, it was a friend of yours that, wow. So there's just so much in that. God put that person, to me, it's divine. Like that person was put into your life to express that message to keep you focused, like to keep you on
Yeah.
track. But anyway, go ahead.
And so in the beginning, I saw I and I I'm a talker by nature. I'm a talker and I'm a teacher, and I love to see transformation in people. I really don't have any desire to just create a product or a service for the sake of creating one. I really want to see whoever is utilizing that to have a transformation. And so for
Mhm.
me, a huge part of my brand was and still is education. And that's something that a lot of my competitors were simply not doing. They were simply
Mhm.
selling products, and it was like, hey, this curl cream is going to get your curls popping. Well, after so long of that, there's a million products that get your curls popping, right? But what really
Okay.
separates you from all the other curl popping products, right? And at a
Okay.
certain point, as Black women, I'm sure that we've all seen people say, well, nothing works for me. I tried all these different products, nothing works for me. Well, it's like, for us, it was like, well, we as a people have not been accurately taught how to care for our hair, regardless
Mm.
of the product. And the one thing that I will always say from the beginning and even now, I want you to buy my products. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't. But if you don't buy my products, that's fine, because what I'm going to
Mhm.
give you, this information I'm going to give you, is brand agnostic. It doesn't really matter what brand you use, because this information is going to teach you how to care for your hair, regardless
Mhm.
of the brand that you use. So if you go use a different product, if you go use As I Am, if you go use Shea Moisture, if you go use Carol's Daughter, whatever, you're going to be able to take this with you. And that would lower the defenses for people.
Okay.
Because I'm
Okay.
like, hey, I'm being upfront. I want you to buy my stuff. But if you don't, I'm
Mhm.
still going to give this to you anyway. I'm not going to gatekeep this because
Right.
you may not buy my stuff. And so that would help to build community. So for me, even in the the worst economic years, or when like the economy wasn't doing so great, or like if people just weren't buying as much, we still built a community, and that community was exceptionally loyal to us. And
Mm.
so, even during the time, like say 2022, 2023, when most other company sales were down, ours were still relatively high, or at least level,
Mhm.
because our community was so strong. I've built
Right.
relationships with these people. Like, I know one of my customers, she has a chocolate allergy, right? And
Okay.
so we actually send candy in all of our orders to our customers. So every order that you get, my son actually puts in a piece of candy, and you get a little note,
Oh,
and it's a whole thing, right? But I
oh, that is
know
cute.
she's allergic to chocolate, so I always make sure, like, make sure you don't send Adina chocolate because she's
Oh,
allergic, right? And so it's like, it's beyond just transactional. It becomes a relationship. And the best
mhm.
thing you can do for your brand is to tap into the like, know, and trust factor, so that you can become more like their friend. Because people buy from people that they like, know, and
People they
trust.
like, people they know, and they trust.
Right.
Mhm.
And I always
Mhm.
say that there's three main categories of people that folks buy from. And one is people just like them. So, your friend, your neighbor, your coworker, right? If my friend says, hey, you should listen to Kimmy's podcast because it's like
Mhm.
so great and she drops all these gems all the time, I'm
Mhm.
more likely to listen to it than if you tell me that, right? Because
Mhm.
you have a vested interest in me listening to your podcast. But my
100%.
friend has no skin in the game, right? So friends, like people like us. The second group of people that people listen to are experts.
Mhm.
So let's say like Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz
Mhm.
might say, like, this particular diet pill will make you lose 50 pounds in 2 weeks. And regardless if that's true or not, it's sold out at the stores because Dr. Oz
Right.
said it, right?
Right.
The third group of people that people listen to are people that they admire. So,
Mhm.
Michael Jordan selling, shaving cream or whatever. Oprah selling books. If you're on Oprah's
Mhm.
book list, you are instant bestseller, only
Yeah.
because Oprah mentioned it, right? And
Mhm.
so if you can become one, but better yet, all three of those people to your
Mhm.
customers, you're going to have built-in loyalty and built-in
Mhm.
sales. Like, our repeat customer rate is like 90%. It's really, really high.
Oh, wow.
It's exceptionally high. But again, we start out the relationship not being transactional. We start out the relationship from a place of education, tapping into values for them, really focusing on what's in it for them as to just, hey, buy this product.
And it's so interesting that you say that because, I've been in sales my whole career, and I focus on our community. Essence, I worked a couple years at a Black-owned radio station, and I'm a graduate of Howard University, so I'm very committed to the culture. And
Sure.
when you said, you phrased it, you said they buy from people they like, know, and
Trust.
what was the last? Trust. Our phrase was like, know, and respect. And so people tend to, which trust and respect kind of,
Sure.
are go hand in hand when you're talking about selling or people, bringing people over to your side. And so with that being said, because you are a woman of color, behind the scenes, when you are at these corporations pitching your business, trying to get mass distribution or whatever your meetings were like, and just a little bit behind the scenes, I know a lot of these companies that target us in the hair care industry are not owned by us, right? There's a lot of companies that, they don't have the same issues going to ask for loans or trying to get distribution that women of, Latina or Black, descent have. So I want to kind of just get a little bit of advice on one, how you dealt with that, because I'm assuming there were issues. Now, if there weren't, then, let us know that too. But I want to hear, I want the audience to hear a little bit more about that, because I know those are problem areas that, they will face when they, start their business or while they're in their business.
Sure. So when it comes to getting distribution, getting loans, so I will say I built the business without debt. So I didn't have to go and get loans. I'm super like debt averse, honestly. And so that's not to say I haven't taken on debt for other businesses that I own, but for Natural Issues, I built it without debt. But in terms of like having conversations with mass distribution, stores like Sally Beauty, Whole Foods, places like that. So my operations manager is a white male. And he and he's phenomenal. He's great. But we would go to meetings, and of course, they would start talking to him right away.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
Because they're just like, sir, we're just so in love with your brand. And he's like, I don't own this company. And so they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. But the thought is always that, it's the white guy or the white woman that owns the company. But what I can say that will help to circumvent people not wanting to work with you and not wanting to perhaps even give you the loan or not wanting to distribute you or what have you is numbers. And I heard Oprah say this years ago, and she was like, the one thing that like kind of like supersedes racism, sexism, ageism is numbers, right? So if you can go to these people with numbers already in place where you can say, like, I have a 90% repeat customer rate. I have X amount of dollars in sales. I had to, like, money is money is green, right? It doesn't matter what you could be the head of the Ku Klux Klan talking to him, but if he's a gatekeeper, right? And he sees that you're doing, I don't know, $1 million in sales.
Numbers, yeah.
Yeah, numbers speak. So it's like if you can build up that community, like I said, and get those sales up before you even go there, then you have the power play. You have the power in that conversation rather than you kind of like begging and asking for a handout. That's how they see it. You become almost like they're courting you to say like, we need you to help us make money because you're going to do fine apparently on your own, regardless of us. We want to be a part of what you're doing.
So 2 questions off of that, and I'll ask them together. One, how did you find your operations managers for someone who may be, at that stage where they're like, okay, I'm doing this all by myself and I need somebody who's, more of an expert in that area, the money talk, because we know how to create, we know how to network. We do have resistance in talking money. Especially in big numbers, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to know how you were able to find your operations manager. And then second, when it came to, well, ask that first because I want to get the question formulated right there.
Okay. So my operations manager, he mostly focuses on logistics. So he's less involved in like the numbers in terms of like revenue and profit and that sort of thing. Like I have an accountant and a tax preparer and that kind of stuff for that. But the operations manager for my company, he's in charge of logistics. He interfaces with the stores that we work with. He looks at the sales reports and sees how we're doing in each store, that sort of thing. And he is my third operations manager. So it wasn't like I hit the jackpot right away. He's been with me the longest because he's been the best. But the other two, the first one was a Black woman, and she was good for where I was at the time, right? Like where I was at the time, I was just starting. I was in a little bitty warehouse, and I started to need someone to come on and do that. And she came along, and then we ended up moving to a different location. And she, I think, realized like maybe this was getting too big for where her expertise could lie. And so she, you know, just kind of politely like exited the company. But I think there's stages, right? And so like where I was then, he would have been way too qualified and I would have had to pay him way too much money, right?
Got it.
And so where she was perfect in the place where I needed her at the time. And then the second person I had a speaking engagement somewhere, and she came up to me and we started talking. We had a conversation and I just really liked her vibe. She ended up being a white woman. And she didn't work out because she got to the point where I feel like she thought she could run the business. And there was a lot of like clashing. Because she really thought that she could like run this business for Black women better than the Black woman who created it. And so it was just like, you gotta go. And so
so you met her at a conference though. You met her. That's the one you met at a conference. Okay.
And then the third person.
And the third person, how did you find him?
Yeah, so I found him. He actually he was the buyer for a chain of stores that we had our products in.
Got it.
And he was my buyer. And so we would, you know, talk a lot. And I just, you know, having that relationship with him as the buyer, you interface with your buyer all the time. And just the way that he would think and the things that he would suggest, it was just like, he'd be really good for like Naturalicious. And by that time we had grown more than when I was at the first place. And I knew that if I were going to try and, you know, recruit him, he was going to require a certain salary that I could not have considered in the beginning. But that relationship with him was built as my buyer for years prior to me even saying, hey, you know, why don't you even think about it? He actually moved states. He was in Ohio. And I, you know, said, hey, what do you think about coming here? But I think the best, you know, staff members or employees or team members you can have are people who you had a chance to really spend time with over some years if you're afforded that luxury. You know, anybody can interview really well, you know, and so it's easier to have a good recruit if you've got someone who you've actually been able to see them in the trenches doing something, proving themselves over time. And that's how I found him.
And in the beginning, I think it's okay to ask, like, listen, let's just try this out. Let's do a trial run, you know, and see if your personalities work. Because that second person, the woman that you talked about, that's not uncommon. Like, you're going to have clashing personalities. And so if you're in the beginning stages of your business, it's okay to pivot from people to people, like when they no longer serve, when the both of you realize it's not a good fit. And it's also smart to test people out, do like trial runs. And the last thing I was going to say, it wasn't really a question. It was the point you made about the numbers. Like, companies really do care about numbers. So that just means before you know, go out and really present yourself to these places or people, whatever your business is, have those questions already answered. Like, you're going to have, and listen, we got all sorts of like chat GBT, this and that. And then we're going to talk about what Gwen is offering, you know, on her channel, but you can find out what these companies really, the partners that they already have, what type of numbers they're, you know, looking from big companies to small companies, and have those answers prepared and canned and ready to go, because even though it may not turn into a yes, trust me, I know. I worked for the largest publication targeting African American women, and we had the numbers of all numbers, and not everyone said yes, just period. But we knew how to package the brand in such a way that any question that came to us, we were able to answer. So
that's a really great point, Kim. I mean, you just want to be ready so you don't have to get ready.
Exactly.
You should absolutely have your, what I call line sheets. If you are a product business or even a service business, have your line sheets ready. If you don't know what line sheets are, they're basically, it's like a sheet that, it's like a sheet or a deck that provides whomever you're presenting with information about all of your service offerings or product offerings. So it's all in one thing. Have like, just really think through all the objections that they may have. Think about all the questions that they're going to have. Like, have that already in a deck. And so all you got to do is turn the page and point to it. I even would have in my decks, I would have customer testimonials, like literal screenshots from Facebook, when people were looking for us in stores. So I would, like, right now, whoever's watching this right now, if anybody says anything good about your brand, like, save it into a folder, because you don't know when you're going to have to go back and get that. I did not know that we were going to start pitching Sally Beauty, but I was already saving screenshots of people saying, where can I find you in stores? Where can I find you? So there's no store near me that sells you. So when I went to pitch Sally Beauty, I'm like, people are already looking for us.
Right.
You know? And so it was like, save all that stuff because it will serve you so well.
Yeah. So many gems. Oh my gosh, Gwen. Listen, if you're just joining in for the, replay, do me a favor, watch, like, I'm going to edit this so the parts that when we were waiting are edited out, but find the part where we talked about Gwen's background and her a little bit about what this conversation is about, and take notes, and then find Gwen on all social media, YouTube channel that will be launching officially. When do you expect them to be able to, because if they go now, they're subscribing, right?
So right now you can subscribe, and there are shorts on my channel. There's no long form videos yet, but there are shorts. The first video will be up sometime in February. But if you sign up, if you subscribe now, there's some things that I know we're going to talk about, but you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel now. Yeah.
And the teaser is she's giving away a consultation valued at $5,000. Like, listen, this woman is the multi-million-dollar woman, let's just say, who is going to be taking time to walk you through your business endeavors, and we'll specify more in a second. So just a couple more questions before we let you go. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how quick the time is flying by. So let's talk about, this is a great segue. We all know developing and maintaining, product-based businesses especially can be arduous, to say the least. Like, it could be, late nights, early mornings, if any sleep at all, right? Yeah. At what point, because I know now you are pivoting into a more consulting-based endeavor. And so I just want to know when you thought that it was time to do that and what that looks like for you.
Yeah, I've been feeling that pull for like a year and a half. So if you guys remember Periscope, like this was like some years ago. Okay, Periscope was a thing, and it was prior to like Facebook Live and even like YouTube Live, right? I would go live on Periscope with this show that I called the Get Money Show. And I would just talk about business and the things I had learned. And it would have so many people on, just like soaking up the things that I was talking about. And they were like, I can't believe that you're telling all this stuff for free. And I was like, well, I just believe that like there's an abundance of like everything in this world. Like, me harboring information is not going to like keep you from winning. Like, just because I win doesn't mean you can't win too, right? So I would just go and I would talk about all these things for like 30 to 45 minutes a day. And, when Naturalicious started kind of like blowing up, I didn't have time to do that. And then Periscope went away, and, I just kind of moved on. And I love talking about business. I love talking about things that people aren't thinking about, or giving them like a different perspective on something. So like you mentioned earlier, I made a video on how to get a loan when you are a small business owner, right? And I got so many DMs about that. Like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
No wonder I couldn't get the loan. Like, you made it so much easier. And I think that, well, I don't think, but I know that God has given us all gifts, and we are
Yes.
to utilize our gifts for his good and for the good of other people.
Mhm.
And one of my gifts is talking and teaching. And I've done it with my hair care business. I do it with my other businesses. And now I'm going to go back and bring back the Get Money Show to basically
Oh,
teach people how to get to the money without, having to worry about stressing out with going into tons of debt. I just had a phone call today from a friend of mine who has an investor who is, and we're always told like, oh, you need to try and get investment in your company. But her investor is trying to call her note, which means that they're basically trying to get her to give them the company. Or if she doesn't do that, then they're going to basically make her pay them back for what they invested. That's the stories we don't hear about when it comes to investment, right? And so it's like, we already are at a disadvantage as Black people, as Black women,
yes.
because we are so underfunded. But we
Mhm.
also just don't have the lineages that a lot of our counterparts do, with our, great grandfather owning, some behemoth company, and then that
Right.
knowledge is passed down to us, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like, what I think is a disservice is when these companies do really, really well, like mine has, and then the business owner doesn't tell everybody else, here's how you do it. Here's how you
Right.
can not make the mistakes that I made. This took me
Mhm.
10 years to do. If I knew what I'm going to tell you, you could do it in 5, right? Like, no one talks about that sort of stuff. And so I was like, okay, God, you've been really like pushing me, because I've been feeling a little like unfulfilled for a little while. And I was like, God, what do you want me to do? Like, what am I here for? I feel like my purpose is like confusing. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And he just kept saying, I need you to teach. I need you to teach. And I'm like, well, I already teach. I teach about hair. He's like, that's fine. I need you to teach about this business stuff. And so hence the Get Money Show is coming back. And so I'm really, really excited about it. I filmed like 6 episodes already, and I'm just trying to get enough under my belt so that I have enough to like, go live,
Okay.
just batching everything. But
Wonderful.
it's been so much fun, even just the filming part,
I agree. Yeah.
and
Well,
the response that I get, because I post a lot of my shorts also on like Instagram, and just the response that people have to this information I'm providing is so fulfilling to me. And to see them realize that, hey, I can do this, because I'm a lot like them. Like, I'm usually very much like my target customer, like, or target person I'm talking to. Like, I'm a Black woman. I'm a single mom. I was a single
mhm.
mom on food stamps.
Mhm.
I've been through a divorce. I've been at the top. I've been at the bottom. Like, I know
Mhm.
what it's like, and I built a business in both scenarios. So I'm just really excited. And it's the Get Money Show with Gwen Jameer. You can find it at youtube.com/Gwen Jameer. And on all social media channels, I'm the Gwen Show.
Okay. So it was a calling, and that's the main takeaway. And you
Yeah,
felt um, the need to serve a community that needs us, right?
absolutely.
That needs you. And our lives. It's the more I hear you talk, it's like there's so many parallels. Like we've had very successful jobs at very successful companies,
Yeah.
and then we no longer are at those companies, and then it's like, what's next? And for
Mhm.
me, it was never about going to another company just to make a whole lot of money, right?
Right.
Um, so in 2018, it was the brainchild of Black Travel and Culture, but it was
Mm.
focused primarily on travel because what I noticed in our community, if we're not going down south or to Disneyland, we don't travel in
Yep.
huge numbers. We
So
are
true.
we are underrepresented in having passports. We are underrepresented in traveling abroad. We are underrepresented in knowing different languages. We are underrepresented in areas that can get us so much further. And
Mhm.
so that was the brainchild for Black Travel Culture, but it expanded because I'm also an investor. I've been an investor. I worked at a brokerage company at the age of 18, learned all about the stock market, and it has benefited, right? And
Sure.
I'm also into wellness because we also over index in all of the ills of the world, from heart disease to um diabetes and everything. And so, and if you didn't check out my last interview with Chef Chantel, we did a whole conversation about plant-based excitement where she talks about her 44-pound weight loss, and I talk about my
Oh,
11-pound weight loss since January 14th. And so check that video out. But again, it's all about serving our community with gems and information that can help. If it's not going to help everybody, someone's going to get something from this and be thankful. And so I thank you, for sharing your vision and your calling with us, and exposing it now through your own platform, because I just see it taking off, and I hope we can do this again, because I think there's, some questions that people could call in and ask, and we could, collaborate on each
I would
other's
love
channel.
that.
So yeah.
I would love that.
And so we're about to wrap up, y'all. I promise you. So I'm just trying, because I had so many more questions, but I want to get to the most important. So you know what? Let's just get into words of wisdom. So we know there's a lot of women, and specifically Black women, who are feeling the need to make the change, but they're unsure how to do it. They're scared. And it could be a change from a career to entrepreneurship, or it could be a change from career to a different type of career. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. I get that. So I just want to, if you could offer some words of wisdom, some concise areas that help you out to help them out in making that step. I think that would be helpful.
I'm so glad you asked this question. I think that a lot of times we create a, what's the word I'm looking for? We create chaos in our minds, basically, right? We incite a problem that doesn't actually exist. So all the fear is that you are worried about the wrong what if, right? You're like, well, what if this fails? What if, like I lose all my money, but what if you succeed, right? What if you actually make it? Like, let's worry about that what if, right? Not the what if it doesn't work, because whether we tell ourselves we're going to succeed or fail, we are right regardless, right? So if you tell yourself it's not going to work, it's not going to work. If you tell yourself it can't help but to work, it can't help but to work. Our minds want our reality to match what we think, right? So it's like, if we tell ourselves like, there's no way that this can fail, like this is going to happen, plan A is the only plan, right? Then we naturally, kind of like subconsciously, start to do things and mold ourselves in ways that make that a reality. If we tell ourselves like, oh, there's a possibility this won't work, and like, oh, what if my husband leave me, and what if my kids aren't okay with it, and what if my mama is mad at me, and what if I lose all my money, then we will naturally start to do things that will make that happen, right? And so one is, stop focusing on the wrong what if. Like, do yourself a favor and try to focus on, focus on the right what if. And then also worrying about like creating chaos in our minds. There's so much power in our heads, in our minds, to create or to kill whatever our dream is, right? And I know it sounds very like woo-woo, but quite honestly, most things that we fear happening never even happen. And my mother was the best example of this. My mom was a worst case scenario always person, right? She watched entirely too much First 48. She was just like, all she watched was like crime shows. So that's all she like would think about, right? So I remember the first time I went out the country, I went to Cuba, and she's like, oh my gosh, Gwen, like everywhere in her mind, everywhere is racist. Like, oh, they racist in Cuba. They racist in Europe. They racist. I'm like, Mom, my next door neighbor is racist, and I'm going to go out.
Thank you.
So, it's just like, she was always so worried about everything, and God bless her soul, she's no longer here with us, but she didn't do much in terms of like adventure. She always wanted to, right? She always talked about wanting to go to Alaska on a cruise. She always talked about wanting to, travel here and there, but she never even got on a plane my whole life because she was scared, right? And it's like, she created this whole scenario in her mind of things that would happen. I remember I went to Colombia, Bogota, and I took my son. I had a speaking engagement in Colombia. I took my son because I thought it would be a great opportunity for him to go. And she's like, oh my gosh, he's a cute little boy. And Gwen, those people down there, they racist. And, they go cut
not in Bogota.
Right. They're going to cut his head off and make you watch. And I'm like, what? Like, it was like the worst thing that could possibly ever happen was her
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
And she didn't, do you know, she did not talk to me for 2 weeks because she was upset that she's like, you're a mother. You should have more responsibility than the, like, she's like, they sell drugs in Colombia. I'm like, you watch too much.
We've been indoctrinated. That's what they show on the news too. We've been indoctrinated to believe that every place else, if we travel, we'll die.
Right. And so it's like, even let's take that thought. Because when I told her I was opening a business and I had was leaving Ford because I had gotten laid off, she's like, oh my gosh, Gwen, like, what are you gonna do? Like, you have to have a job. I was like, well, I'm gonna start a business. Why don't you just go get a job? And it was like, well, I think this is like an opportunity for me to like, I think this is a blessing in disguise. Like, I got laid off. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Now's the time. She's like, you're a new mother, and how are you gonna pay your bills? And I was like, I don't know, but it's gonna happen, because my mind told me it couldn't fail. Her mind said that it possibly would, right? But it didn't matter what her mind was telling her, because I was the one in control. Yeah. So I continued to move like I was going to move, not letting a naysayer. And she had my best interest at heart.
And most of us can relate. Our mothers did the best they could with what they knew, right?
Absolutely.
So we could relate to that. Mm-hmm.
But not letting a naysayer sway me. And then I grew into what I did, right? And of course, she was super proud of me and, all those things. But we create chaos in our minds. So again, do yourself a favor. Stop creating chaos. Stop inciting panic for something that hasn't even happened. Here's what you can do that will really, really help you. Think to yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen? Like, truly the worst thing, right? Okay, I start this company today. I still have my job, because a lot of people start when they're actually still working, right? So I start this company. I do it on the side and in between, after I get off work. And the worst that could happen is that the company fails. I still have my job, right? Like, the worst I could have, like, are you going to lose your house? Probably not, if you still got a job. Is your family going to fall apart? Probably not. They probably support you, right? So it's like, the worst that can happen truly is that it just doesn't work out and you just continue to work at your job. What's the best that could happen? The best that could happen is that this thing takes off so much that you have to quit your job. And now you have a choice to stay or leave. You quit your job and you're like up in the, living in Malibu and, doing all the great things and taking trips wherever you want, right? So really think about the worst, because we assume all this bad stuff can happen. And most of that stuff doesn't even logically make sense,
Right.
If it doesn't, you just move on with your life. And so that's the best advice I can give. It's like, stop creating chaos that doesn't exist.
Listen, and what I heard from that is you miss 100% of the shots that you do not take. It's just, sometimes we overcomplicate things, but think about if you're into sports, Kobe Bryant, Mamba mentality. I look at that book every day just so I can, face the world and do what I need to do. But if he was scared to shoot the ball, he would never have become, arguably one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And I'll use Martha Stewart, who started her company at the age of 50 years old and grew it to a multi-million dollar business. But I'm sure the naysayers were like, you too old, nobody's gonna, and just think of people, Oprah Winfrey, a Black woman who looked like a Black woman.
Right.
And took over the airwaves for decades with the #1 talk show, and the naysayers that she talks about frequently. And so, it's all about the execution. It really is. It's all about taking that shot, seeing where the ball lands, and if you miss, you take another shot. It's really not complicated, but because of our history and so many other things, we unfortunately get stuck. So I thank you for, and then the other thing you said, stop creating chaos. And, a lot of times we get in our head too much, and I'm an overthinker. I'm super. And what this year, my 2 words are intention and accountability. So it's like, I only focus on things that drive me to do. Even if all the, boxes aren't, all the lines to the boxes aren't touching, it's all about accountability and intention. And as long as my intention is right and I take the action, we'll see where it lands, right? So,
Yeah.
and then the right what if, right? So making sure that the what if, turns out, like, what if, like, just think about what is the
Yeah.
worst thing that can happen. And if anything that is not going to cause harm to
Yeah.
you, then fine. And the last thing, I'm glad you talked about travel, because, we're all about promoting travel here. I do passport giveaways. If you're not following me on TikTok, we're about to make an announcement for February. Last year I gave away I want to do one every month in 2024. So please follow us there for the announcement and join my mailing list. And then I do want to, before we close out with you and do the announcement, join us Friday at 7 p.m., where I will have the author of I Love My People, Kim Singleton, as our Welcome to Black History Month guest. And she's going to, do a reading. She's going to talk. She's also a filmmaker. She does documentaries. And so go ahead and turn on your note. Oh, I didn't post that yet, but tomorrow I will post that. You could turn on your notification for that. And with that being said, I guess before we wrap up completely, can you share what your giveaway is and how people, and while you do that, I'm going to pull up your ebook as well. So if you can
Okay.
share what your giveaway is,
Sure.
that would be nice.
Sure. So I'm giving away a 1-hour consultation, business consultation, to someone who is on my, who has downloaded my ebook that Kim is going to pop up, and has also subscribed to my YouTube channel. So you can get the book. It's a 56-page guide called the 2024 Small Business Survival Guide. And it will give you all the gems on how to save money in your business, how to find money in your business. It took me, 2-3 months to write this book and really research and make sure I was providing a ton of value to the folks who download it. So you can get it for free at gwenjameer.com/bizguide. gwenjameer.com/bizguide, BIZGUIDE. You can get it, even if you don't remember that URL, you can simply go to my website, which is gwenjameer.com, and you'll see a link or a button where you can just click it and download that. So you download that, and then make sure that you go to my YouTube channel, which is, you can just search for Gwen Jameer, or youtube.com/Gwen Jameer, and just hit the subscribe button. And once you do that, you will be entered to win a $5,000 business consultation worth $5,000. That's how much it is per hour. And you will receive that 100% free. So we'll dig into your business, no matter where you are, whether you're just starting or whether you've been in business for 20 years or anywhere in between. We'll talk numbers, we'll talk marketing, we'll talk all the things, and we'll answer all your questions as well. So you'll have that with me one-on-one. So one person will win that.
And can you just explain again? So all they have to do is subscribe to, you'll be able to get in contact. Like, how will you get in contact with them?
Yeah, so they subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then they download the 2024 Small Business Survival Guide. When they download the survival guide, we'll have their contact information.
Got it. Okay. And then there's also a link in the description now.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and support this channel, support the show. I'm telling you, just from the quick videos that I saw, there are, let me see, you said there's shorts on here. Let me see if I can just quickly show you what that looks like. Yep, perfect. Okay. So yeah, so this I think is the accountability partner. Gwen is the accountability partner that we all need to keep ourselves honest. Can I enter to win this consultation?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I've already got your ebook. So do I need to?
Yeah, you can.
But
Yeah,
no.
You can certainly be entered.
Okay, perfect. But thank you. I thank you, one, for being so flexible with your time. I thank you, two, for being so informative in this conversation. I know, listen, you've already helped me, and I'm sure more people will be helped by the experiences that you've had that can help us avoid those pitfalls. And go ahead and be sure to follow Gwen, follow Black Travel and Culture. Subscribe, turn on notifications whenever there's something so you'll know when Gwen posts her video, so you can turn on notifications and then you'll be alerted when her videos go up in February. And I think we covered almost everything. And if there's anything that you want to say before we close out, please, now is the time. But we do look forward to having you back.
Yeah, I have had such a great time. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your show and allowing me to talk to your audience and hopefully inspire some of them. I do think that like Black Travel and Culture is such a great name, but then also such a great mission also, because like you said, not enough of us are actually traveling and actually seeing the world, because your perspective just expands so much and possibilities expand so much in your mind when you see the world. And so I think that you're doing the Lord's work. So I think you're doing really, really great. But yeah, everybody just, download my book. It's going to bless you. Like I said, it'll help you find money in your business, help you save money in your business. It's 56 pages, chock full of gems. Make sure you download it at gwenjameer.com/bizguide. That same link is also on my channel, but I think Kim said she has it in her show notes as well. So you can get it from there easily. And just make sure you hit the subscribe button on the Get Money Show. I'll be posting my first video probably in about a week or two. And we'll get this party started. And I'll be dropping videos every single week from that point on.
And thank you. And the last thing I want to say about her 56-page guide, where do you get a 56-page free guide from nowadays? Like, that just does not even happen. The free guides I get usually look like a one-pager with a whole bunch of boxes that you have to fill in yourself. I have been literally going through her guide with highlights because I have big plans for 2024 with this brand that are going to come to fruition. I know this for sure. And so her guide has already blessed me. I'm not even finished with it because I've been highlighting and taking notes so much, but go ahead and get your free 56-page guide. I saw that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what we need. So thank you again for coming on the show and sharing all of these great gems. Thank you for bringing a brand to us, because I didn't really mention Naturalicious much, but when I tell you, as a natural girl for the past 10 years now, it ain't easy. And there's too many people on these internet streets that are giving information that is not relevant to me and my hair care. And when I tell you, your product has literally just been that. I just ordered it because I wasn't really I wasn't really using a lot of products in my hair, because truth be told, one of the products that I didn't do enough research on, and I have hair that doesn't break, like it broke my hair. And it was supposedly geared towards natural hair care, but it was so drying and it was too much alcohol, I want to say. But saying all that to say, thank you for creating a brand. I will come back and report, but so far so good.
Thank you.
And thank you again for your time. And we look forward to seeing, not only your growth in this area of, helping other people, but seeing the people that you help out and their growth. So thank you again for all of these great gems. Too many. We didn't get to all the questions, but thank you. And I know that happened to me the other day too. But just in time, it's saying that we have to get out of here, girl. It's an hour and 20 minutes. I had no idea. But thank everyone. Be sure to follow us, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bells, and we'll see you on Friday with our Live with Kim Singleton. I love my people. Take care, everyone.
Bye.